Let us pray. Almighty God, we have called us to govern this province. We ask your help to make decisions and laws that will be just and will promote the interests of the people. Almagtige God, ons bid dat u gedurende ons vergaderings ons die nodige wysheid sal gee en ons motiewe suiwer sal hou en dat u ons sal help om ons tekortkominge te oorkom en al ons besluite aan u op te dra. Sikelele ilezwe letu nabantu balo, umasile ikulungu pipondu letu, nkosi sikelele i Afrika, hina abantuane bayo, kokele inkokele zayo, inike ikolo i Afrika. All this we beg in your holy name. Amen. You may be seated. Order. The House is in session. We start with the order paper. I see the Chief Whip of the Majority Party.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I table the motion number 1 in my name.
Any objections to the motion being approved? No objection. Agreed to. Chief Whip.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I table the motion number 2 in my name. Thank you.
Any objection? No objection. Agreed to. Motion is agreed to. The Secretary will read the first order of the day.
Consideration of Principle of Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
We do have a speakers list. I see the Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and thank you, members of this House. South Africa, as we know, is facing an economic stagnation and a looming fiscal crisis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, you will know that the World Bank sees the economy growing only at 0.8% this year and 1.1% the years thereafter. We know that the national government has a deficit as a share of the GDP, changed from 0.9%, which was in a surplus in 2008, to average to 4.8% in arrear per annum since 2010, Honourable Deputy Speaker. There was a total net loan debt of the national government as a percentage of the GDP, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that has nearly doubled from 21.8% in 2009 to 41% in 2015. And as we speak now, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we now know it is above 50%. And I will certainly do so regularly so that you understand the impact that this has on the economy. The country is facing a severe economic crisis as a result of your leaders' mismanagement of the economy, and I will certainly continue to address this matter in this House. If it was not for President Zuma and the Guptas of destroying this economy, we would have been in a much better space. But my honourable colleagues here on this side of the House, they will deal with the Gupta matter. They will address this House, this side of the House on the Gupta matter. They have ammunition, and some of you will not survive it when they finish with you. I hope that you have your bulletproof vests on, because the fireworks is going to start during this debate. But, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we also know that this debate is a debate on the principle of the budget, and therefore I will certainly address the issues of the principles underlying our current economic situation. Honourable Deputy Speaker, part of the underlying economic problems is the regulatory and policy uncertainties. You cannot speak about the National Development Plan in the morning and in the evening in the dark. You're busy implementing the National Democratic Revolution. So that's a fundamental problem. This is an issue of principle, but also, Honourable Deputy Speaker, there's also the widening on the infrastructure gaps. Honourable Speaker, there's the mounting trading deficits. And this is a serious matter. I hope you don't make any jokes of the drought, hope you respect and understand that the drought has severe implications, and my colleague, Honourable Minister of Agriculture, will deal with this matter. The drought deals fundamentally with food security, not only in the Western Cape, but in South Africa generally. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this is a narrative that was created by your President, Honourable Member Darkmore. I cannot help, I'm not a member of your party, so if he creates this negative picture, I'm showing the mirror so that you can watch into that mirror, and certainly you cannot deny that your President is #1 in creating this crisis in South Africa. You're going to see the fireworks that will start later as my colleagues will shoot in your direction. There's also the rising cost of living. There's the inflation, Honourable Leader of the Opposition. There's the interest rate. There's widespread governance and management failures of key state institutions. We are now discussing the principal issues of the destruction of the economy by your President.
Order.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, there is also the erosion of policy credibility that is spreading as the fiscal and monetary spaces diminish due to stubborn public sector wage pressures expanding above its productivity and deteriorating external financing conditions. Honourable Deputy Speaker, recently, the weakening of the rand currency that was supposed to offer some relief to growth in the manufacturing through exports and competitiveness against the foreign imports brought even greater despair to this country. Honourable Deputy Speaker, more precisely, while the rand lost 41% of its current value against the dollar between January 2013 and December 2015, manufacturing production slowed to 1.3% in 2013, 0.1% in 2014, and, Honourable Deputy Speaker, to 0.0% in 2015. This is the state of the economy. This is the state of the economy that Mr. Zuma is currently destroying. So what are we saying, Honourable Deputy Speaker? We are offering an alternative fiscal policy framework, and the focus of the 2016 fiscal policy framework, Honourable Deputy Speaker, should be to bolster policy credibility and address key supply-side barriers with a view to further the economy's productive capacity through infrastructure-based development. And as you have seen, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the last 10 days, we have tabled a budget of 26.7 billion rand to deal with the infrastructure issues over the MTF. And so this Cabinet has adopted the position of fiscal consolidation, which should proceed without delay along the announced commitments to reduce the budget deficit and to ensure that debt sustainability concerns do not continue to weigh on already fragile investment sentiment. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the public sector wage bill should be reformed to realign nominal wages and productivity to narrow the competitiveness gap and boost efficiency. In the same vein, Honourable Deputy Speaker, objective performance monitoring and evaluation framework on state-owned enterprises should be strengthened to remove the structural bottlenecks to boost productivity and competitiveness. Targeted prudential measures such as conducting enhanced financial stress tests on the balance sheets, reversing non-performing loans, improving asset quality management, clearer allocation and enforcement of responsibilities and accountabilities, and greater private sector participation are key to remedy the structural issues and the vulnerabilities in our state-owned enterprises. Honourable Deputy Speaker, monetary policy should remain tight with principles to curtail wild inflation expectations and retain investment for capital as fiscal buffers. Honourable Deputy Speaker, due consideration must also be given of the economic implications associated with rising cost of borrowing in the economy. Greater competition in product markets, more inclusive labour market relations, and reduced skills mismatches remain indispensable to boost sustainable growth and enhance the economy's future tax base to rebalance the fiscal framework towards investment and exports. Honourable Deputy Speaker, undertaking structural fiscal framework reforms to lower barriers to market entry should also reduce artificial consumer price inflation and facilitate reallocation of resources to more productive activities. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the greatest fiscal risk facing South Africa going forward is that the government underestimates the implications of these core issues, and policy reforms fall well short of market expectations, in which case the South Africa will descend into a period to internal devaluation and protracted economic recession. Honourable Deputy Speaker, South Africa has control over the domestic factors. There are domestic factors, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We have control over those domestic factors, and we should be able to provide leadership in that space. And these are in the fiscal pressures, the energy supply, the dysfunctional state-owned enterprises, the fraud, the corruption, policy uncertainties, high unemployment, and labour law flexibility. Here are the alternatives, Honourable Member Yankees. We have tabled these proposals at the Budget Council last month. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we propose the following fiscal policy instruments. We have tabled, as the collective cabinet mandated me to table these proposals at the Budget Council. I'm happy to report that the Minister has included all these proposals in the Budget Council documentation. So this is our proposals. We have suggested that we cut the wage bill. That was tabled. That is going to happen. We have proposed that government must conduct head counts of the employed personnel against the payroll. That is what we have approached, Honourable Deputy Speaker. That has been accepted. We have also introduced a moratorium on new appointments. That is something we have proposed. That is something that has been accepted. We propose conduct assessments of critical posts. We have proposed it. It has been accepted. We propose consolidate cross-functional activities. We have proposed it. It has been accepted. We've proposed a total review of the public entities. You can laugh, Honourable Member. We have proposed it. We provided leadership. It was accepted at the Budget Council. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we've also proposed to develop a guideline for the determination of the remuneration of CEOs of public entities and the chairperson and board members of public entities in South Africa. Some of these CEOs and chairpersons of boards, national boards, are earning 3, 4, even in KwaZulu-Natal, 5 million rand as a CEO of a provincial public entity. We, Honourable Deputy Speaker, propose that we re-look at the salary levels of the chief executive officers and the board members, Honourable Member Chacham, so that we cannot have a situation where a member of the public entity earn double the salary of President Zuma. That is something that we have proposed this cabinet. Honourable Member, the chairperson of the Budget Council, and I hope that you support him, Honourable Minister of Finance, Minister Pravin Gordhan. These were the things that were proposed. It has been accepted. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have also proposed to improve the debt collection and set credible revenue targets to enhance domestic resource mobilization. We have proposed, under the leadership of the Premier, to reduce the size of overseas delegations. We have also proposed to consider not using business class. We've also proposed the review of the VIP protection security budgets. We have also proposed to explore alternative forms of communication, Honourable Deputy Speaker. For example, video, conferencing, and Skype. Honourable Member Chacham, you can use Skype. You don't have to fly up to Johannesburg. You reduce the cost. So video conferencing is some technology that you can use. I am very happy that you are very positive about these proposals. Thank you for your support into this fiscal policy instruments. Honourable Member Chacham, I think you will also appreciate that we are sitting here in the legislature. Honourable Deputy Speaker, sorry that I speak through the chair of the caucus that side. I must address you. Honourable Deputy Speaker, far from cutting down on the democratic space of this esteemed House, by allocating also inadequate resources to vote 2, we have allocated an additional 28.4 million rand over the MTEF to the Provincial Parliament And for the 2016-17 budget, it has increased to 130 million, the second largest percentage increase amongst the provincial votes. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have also persuaded the National Treasury to conduct a national benchmark exercise on the funding of all provincial legislatures in South Africa, particularly in relation to their sizes, their functions, and their effectiveness. And I think honourable members on this side of the House will concur that there are some other legislatures that are much bigger than ours, has much more money, and do much less than we are doing. And you know that is the truth, and certainly you know that's the truth, and I want to thank you for your support in getting this investigation done by the National Treasury, because you will be able to get more money into this legislature as a result of that benchmark exercise. I'm particularly happy that the National Treasury has now agreed to this particular benchmarking study. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is against the background that I have directed also scarce resources in the form of a qualified chartered accountants with Provincial Treasury to assist with the project management of the conversion to the GRAP and the new accounting framework. The additional cash would go towards the acquisition of the integrated financial system for the legislature. And I see the Secretary of Parliament is smiling, so he certainly would be very happy for the additional resources in this particular space. We have thus provided additional money, Honourable Deputy Speaker, not only the money but also home bodies to assist this legislature to be compliant with the new legislative framework, the so-called FAMPLA legislation. Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I would also like to address the issue regarding the unfunded legislative mandates. We have also tabled this matter in the Budget Council. The Budget Council is now also looking into this matter, particularly as it relates to the metros, because there are huge implications for this. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the largest of these is, of course, above budgeted wage settlements. This requires a review of the wage settlement process and agreement to take account that provinces are the most impacted on by its outcomes. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I'm happy to announce that that the National Minister, when he tabled his budget in the National Assembly, he did address this particular matter, because you cannot have a situation where one department, national department, negotiate above inflation salary increases without consultation with the National Treasury, and I'm very happy that those processes are now also subject to investigations. Also, Honourable Deputy Speaker, on the other side, it also includes costs of procuring ICT services through CITA, which is a national and provincial departments are obliged to use, despite significantly higher cost than what is obtainable through private providers. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we've also addressed the issue of perks for politicians, such as luxury vehicles and luxury housing. There's also a matter that was raised in the Budget Council, particularly by some of the other MECs. We have also had discussions about the austerity and fiscal consolidation as it relates to the ministerial handbook. But, Honourable Deputy Speaker, fiscal consolidation requires leadership. It was said when one MEC in the Budget Council reported that in one province, the MECs refused to use a government vehicle. They prefer to use their own private vehicles as MECs, and then they travel the whole province all over the south, and every weekend they are all over the south, because the more you travel, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the more you become like Leonard Ramatlekane. You travel and you spend traveling to every single area. The more you travel, the more you claim. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this MEC actually backed the Budget Council to start implementing measures. We said it's your responsibility. You must ensure that that does not happen. Honourable Member Dianki, if you want to see what they claim per month as a MEC, I'm happy to provide it to you, because you will be shocked to see what happens when they use their private vehicles. because the MEC for community safety there can travel every weekend to every police station, because the more you travel, the more you claim. This is not in line with the principles of fiscal consolidation. And so, Honourable Member Yankee, let me conclude. Since you want to hear the good story, since you want to hear the good story, you want the real story. Here, Honourable Member Chacham, is the good story. Op the einde. At the end, as we say. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I conclude. The Western Cape has a good story as reflected in this budget. We, firstly, are rolling out broadband technology to bridge the digital divide between the rich and the poor. It's bridging the digital divide between the platteland and the urban areas. Also, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we are building and upgrading 33 health infrastructure facilities. We are building 50 new schools, Honourable Deputy Speaker. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we are investing in our infrastructure to the tune of 26.7 billion rand. We are creating an environment that is conducive for economic growth. We are improving the health care in rural areas. Honourable Deputy Speaker, when you now visit the healthcare facilities in the rural areas, you will be surprised that people are now saying, when they walk into our facilities, when they get the treatment, people are saying, is this a private hospital? Good quality healthcare is also now in the rural areas. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this budget, we also see that we are improving on our service delivery targets. We are improving on our educational outcomes. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we are running as a sub-national government, a capable state. We are creating more jobs in this province, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We are targeting the poor through spatial budgeting, Honourable Deputy Speaker. But, Honourable Speaker, our communities do not feel safe, and therefore we are targeting the budget for specific interventions through the Minister of Community Safety. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we are creating opportunities for our youth through internships, through learnerships, through EPWP, through the youth pay program, youth cafes, bursaries, and many other interventions. My colleagues will speak during the budget votes on these interventions. Honourable Deputy Speaker, frequently the Honourable Member of Human Settlements frequently shows me picture images of the good top quality housing facilities we are now erecting in this province. We are also building top-class public schools, Honourable Deputy Speaker. We are also creating sustainable alternative energy through the Premier's Green Economy Initiative. We are now building excellent healthcare facilities all over the rural areas in this province. Honourable Deputy Speaker, but this government has taken up this challenge of the budget cut of 1.5 billion rand over the next 3 years. We were able to do so, Honourable Deputy Speaker, because of the first 5 years under the leadership of Premier Zille. We built in enough institutional, financial, governance architecture in order to be able to absorb this situation. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this budget is a budget for growth. This is a budget for sustainable growth. This budget is a budget for inclusive growth. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this is also a budget for smart growth. And this budget of 55 billion rand, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have demonstrated a commitment to fiscal discipline. We have demonstrated a commitment to fiscal consolidation. So over the next 3 years, Honourable Deputy Speaker, we have tabled a balanced budget, and we will do everything in our best, in our ability, to manage this budget within our objectives, within the National Development Plan, and within the alignment of our provincial strategic plan. Honourable Deputy Speaker, what we are doing, this budget is aligned to the objectives of the National Development Plan. So, and if so, the ANC attacks this budget, they are attacking the National Development Plan.
Honourable Beerwinkel. Honourable Yankee, you must now remain quiet, please. Your own member speaking next to that mic.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, before I go into the core of my debate, I'd like to take some time just to remind this DA government, and specifically this MEC one more time, of their place and role in this country. This DA-run Western Cape province is not a separate state, let alone a capable state. It is a part of South Africa. The MEC refers to this DA government as a subnational government. Not only is this reference presumptuous, but it is also unconstitutional, because the Western Cape is a sphere of government, not an autonomous state. It is interlinked and interdependent of other states of government. You are integrally part of a unitary state of South Africa. And remember my last statement I made where you went wild? I'm going to remind you. Your very existence is dependent on national and other spheres of government working together. Quiet. You seem to project an amicable relation. Speaker, can I please be protected from this howling that you can't even hear what you say?
Please continue.
Anyway.
I will watch the House.
Thank you. You seem to project an amicable relationship with Minister Pravin Gordhan, even volunteering advice with regard to wage negotiations, as if those ministers there can't think or plan for themselves. But let me just remind you, that very minister is a member of the NEC of the ANC, and he is a member of my and the rest of these members here, the party of the ANC. So why do you then not extend that same hand of better together to us as well? Make up your mind. Do you want to be a team player or a subnational government, as you put it? Do you want to abide by the laws of the country as a whole, or do you want to make up your own as you go along? At national parliament, you want to insist on freedom of speech, but here, in your so-called capable state, you want to close down debate in this house. I want to also advise you, or just ask you very respectfully, leave your members in the other provinces to play their oversight role as we do here. Trust them to do that, or else go and sit in national and fight for the provinces there. But address the Western Cape when you are speaking here. Address the Western Cape. Speaker, the MEC speaks of domestic resource mobilization initiatives. Provinces don't use that term, domestic.
Remember, they are for concepts. That's the end.
It's a term used by sovereign states like the South African government, which the DA is not. In this Western Cape, it is not. You are not a sovereign state. You are not a sovereign state. You're a province. And you are in a unitary state. Then the MEC speaks about building up a provincial volatility reserve. Speaker, that is nothing else but a slush fund to deposit funds to be used at their discretion without rules of corporate governance. However, the very MEC who now just praised government, national government, certain sections of national government, conveniently finds excuses to blame that very national government as to why a contingency reserve, that reserve that is kept for unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure like floods and drought and natural disasters, cannot be created. Speaker, the Western Cape has allocated 26.7 billion for infrastructure. This is the one vehicle via which development can be facilitated in a holistic and integrated manner. That is, of course, if this DA government is serious about eradicating poverty and facilitating the opportunities of wealth creation for the poor. The MEC made a huge hoo-ha about the 2017 allocations that were supposed to support a budget for growth. I'll show you further, Speaker, how this is both a contradictory statement as well as a fallacy. The plan of this DA government is supposedly a budget for growth, but it's skewed growth. The MEC speaks about putting the citizenry at the center of all budgetary decisions and adhering to efficiency gains. The citizenry. Since when, Deputy Speaker, did this DA government become so interested and citizen-friendly? We know that this DA government and the budget for public participation has incrementally and drastically, even in your time, and you know about this, Deputy Speaker, been decreased. So, in short, how do you then prove that you care about the poor citizenry and you want to make them part of all decisions that affect them? Now, Speaker, in the future, very near future, there is an appropriation bill about to go out for public participation. Remember, we just spoke about active citizenry, putting the citizenry first. But let's put this DA government and this parliament to the test and see how they encourage the poor citizenry to participate and get involved in this process. Or will it be the DA's favorite constituencies, the rich families owning vast tracts of land and unwilling to share that very land with the poor, their poor neighbors and their workforce? You Speaker, they speak about increasing expenditure on maintenance and to address aging infrastructure. Yet, just yesterday, we got the damning report of the under-expenditure on maintenance in health and public works departments. Shocking. Shocking. The evidence is there, Deputy Speaker.
Nice talkers.
Visit the hospitals, visit the schools in rural areas, see the state of certain roads. So, if this budget was so underspent in the third quarter of 2015, how would pumping more money into that dark hole for infrastructure help anything at all? In the MEC's budget speech, he speaks about a combined planning committee that's made up of public works, education, health, and treasury representatives. But the fact that the infrastructure spend targets are not met is contradictory. So what does that mean? That planning committee has failed, and more importantly, it is failing the poor. Talking about infrastructure, yes, they are. Talking about infrastructure, Deputy Speaker, the shocking news that we just had about 2 days ago was how the city of Cape Town, supposedly this best-run city in Africa or wherever, I don't know, had to give back to national an unspent 227 million to be reallocated to other municipalities that can use it. How is this possible, Deputy Speaker? The best-run city, municipality could not spend conditional grants at that. Conditional grants. And that was meant for an urbanization project in Philippi because it didn't have the capacity to upgrade Stock Road interchange also in Wynberg. Who lives in those areas?
Black lives.
Who lives in those areas, Deputy Speaker? Black lives should matter all the time. This MEC says that the greatest portion of the budget will go for infrastructure, and it is also allocated to the city of Cape Town. That it will invest 26.7 billion, excuse me? Oh yeah, over the MTF and create 104,000 jobs. Yet, Speaker, the city of Cape Town had a perfect opportunity to empower a community with job creation and infrastructure development, yet they gave that very money back that was supposed to facilitate that. So, a budget for growth? Yes, for skewed growth. Speaker, let me touch on another buzzword. This capable state sub-national government that has domestic policies. But now we hear about something else. It's called game changers.
Oh, the concepts again.
Energy, vocational training, e-learning, school activities, tackling alcohol abuse, live and work, amongst those are some are mentioned. Now, Deputy Speaker, how can live and work be a game changer? That is what integrated communities and its planning is all about. It's a natural, it's a common thing, it should be done. Speaker, in the MEC speech, there's one, I repeat, one short sentence allocated to the biggest driver of public unrest and discontent, and it reads like this. Continued support on the development of bulk water and sanitation master plans and municipal firefighting capability will remain a priority. Really, Speaker? Really? But let me stop there for a minute. Speaker, recently in the news, we've read about this young murdered girl whose half-naked body was found in a toilet. Speaker, not in a toilet the way we know it, the way we have it. A toilet far in a backyard away from the house that she's supposed to have stayed in. Speaker, is that not, that's not only the lack of dignity that doesn't get considered, it's also the lack of safety that was brought about by the absence of bulk sanitation services, and therefore a young girl loses her life. Would any of you sitting here accept a life like that? Speaker, this speaks to the scant regard for the poor and the vulnerable and their needs for basic sanitation and access to water. One line, Speaker. Why then, Speaker, is the provision of sanitation not a game changer? Why is that not a game changer? Because black lives to us should matter all the time, but not there. This, Speaker, is how you compile a budget for skewed growth. Speaker, compliance to financial laws and and I must say that, let me just say this again. Speaker, compliance to financial laws and regulations and achieving of clean audits does not, and I repeat, does not translate into meaningful service delivery in communities where the services should be felt. 100%. Audits do not measure service delivery. I've just proved this with a clean audit on the city, but the service looks like it did. Why then do we have continued service delivery protests? These are the budgets for technical growth devoid of all human element. Speaker, another catchphrase, the whole of society concept of the DA. It refers to the whole of the city society and the whole of the urban society, because our citizen-conscious MEC and the DA government forgets about the whole of the rural society.
It's the whole of the DA.
The very citizens for whom access to economic infrastructure and sustainable livelihood will remain a distant dream. This budget speaks to unequal growth. If it was indeed a whole of society growth budget, Speaker, then if it is indeed a whole of society growth, then you would have less flocking into the metro areas and the balance of wealth and growth would be spread across the province. Deputy Speaker, should people in the rural areas forever remain farm workers and never feel and live development and the better life that we promised them? Clearly, this capable state, with a budget for growth, did not plan with the farm workers in mind, did not plan with that murdered girl in mind. In closing, Speaker, this supposed budget for growth by this supposed capable state and supposed subnational state is everything but growth for everyone. This is a budget for selective growth for the rich and the favored. It's not even a game changer. If anything, Speaker, it plays games with the lives of the poor and the dignity of the vulnerable. I thank you.
Order. Honourable Minister Schaefer, Minister of Education.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Minister Mayor's recent budget speech focused on growing the economy, affirming the Western Cape government's alignment to the National Development Plan 2030, while responding to the weakened economic and fiscal outlook and committing to smart, sustainable and inclusive growth. The 2016 budget gives effect to the budget policy priorities of the Western Cape government, which aim to support economic development and social progress and create public value for all while managing service delivery risks. Key to economic development and social progress is a good education. Education, in every sense, is one of the most fundamental preconditions for economic growth. No country can achieve sustainable economic development without substantial investment in education. But of course, the amount of money on its own does not mean that the right outcomes are being achieved. South Africa spends a very large proportion of our budget on education, yet the results are not proportionate to it. It is vital that the money is spent on the right things and the right people doing the things the right way. I heard yesterday about a school in KwaZulu-Natal where it is regarded as normal practice for teachers to arrive for the beginning of the school term 2 weeks late and leave 2 weeks early because they happen to be from another province. Yet they are being paid salaries that assume they are teaching from the first day to the last day of the term. And I'm told that the principal seems to accept this as normal practice. That is why we are not making sufficient progress in education in South Africa, and that is the kind of accountability that is lacking in too many places and was highlighted by the Premier as a prerequisite for a democracy to flourish. It is an integral part of a capable state. And this is the kind of accountability that is resisted by SATU, who oppose systemic tests, ANAs, and any mechanism that will allow teachers to be more closely monitored. The only tests, in fact, that they are interested in are the jobs for cash eligibility tests. Because of the importance of a good education for people to realize their potential and contribute to economic growth in our country, I was very surprised when I saw the President's SONA speech and Minister Gordon's budget speech, as I was hoping to hear what their plans were for improving education. I was shocked, in fact, that the President did not make any reference at all to basic education, and Minister Gordon said about one sentence, even though 20% of our population comprises learners of school-going age. This is probably because a large part of our education system is in dire straits, largely as a result of SATU's continued stranglehold, a situation that the ANC is unwilling to address, especially a few months before the local government elections. Essentially, what the ANC is saying to our young people is, we don't give a fakey. Madam Speaker, Mr. Deputy Speaker, education is a constitutional right, a basic human right, and the best possible vehicle to empower South Africans to develop our country. Without a good education, people's chances of employment are severely limited. Quality education is the key to an improved quality of life and leads to broad social benefits to individuals and society. It empowers individuals to obtain a fulfilling job or to create jobs, contribute to the economy, and utilize their talents to the full. This in turn gives them self-esteem and dignity. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to see that the lack of access to quality basic education is a significant factor in the prevalent problems in South Africa of poverty and inequality. Every single child in this country must have access to the standard of education that will put him or her on the path to success. As a government, we believe that a future with more jobs, less inequality, better education, and greater freedom to pursue opportunity is a vision that is shared by all South Africans and must be pursued vigorously. To achieve this vision, we need to ensure that our learners have access to a quality education, and the only way, quite frankly, that this will be achieved is by way of a DA national government. In the DA, as we have in this budget, we put our money where our mouth is. We have not only prioritized education in what we say, but in what we do. And the money we allocate has been spent efficiently, effectively, wisely, and ethically over the years, and will be again. This is evident in the fact that over the last 6 years, since the DA has been in government in the Western Cape, measurable improvements have been seen in our education system. Interestingly, our unemployment rate is lower than the rest of the country, as we've said many times, despite the province's population growth. In addition, our economy is growing faster than the national economy, which nowadays is on a perpetual roller coaster ride as the ANC plays games with our future and our economy by the practice of Zuptonomics. But I have noticed that a narrative is developing, or rather is being developed by the ANC, that the DA inherited a well-functioning province and that we are simply riding the wave of historical factors. Well, it seems that it's time to remind the ANC and the public of a few facts. Since we have been elected to government in 2009, the matric pass rate has increased by 14%, after it had declined by 10% since 2004 under the ANC. In 2015, after 6 years of DA government, we have just over 10,500 more learners passing matric and gaining access to opportunities than was the case under the ANC. In 2015, well, why do you think they're growing? Because they want to come to a DA government. In 2015, 8,079 more learners obtained the quality pass required for university entrance than in 2009. and the number of learners in our lowest quintile schools achieving a bachelor's pass rate has doubled. This shows the DA's commitment to the poor in action. Our maths pass rate has increased by 10% since 2009. That's got nothing to do with growth, it's percentage. And our science by a massive 20.4%. And that is percent, not numbers. Under MEC Dugmore, there were 85 underperforming schools in 2009, which had been increasing year on year. Last year, there were 27. Under a DA provincial government, in the 2015 NSC, 10 out of 16 schools in the Mitchells Plain area saw increases in the numbers of learners passing, as well as increases in the pass rate. Mitchells Plain schools' average pass rate increased by more than 10%.
Order.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Schools in Khayelitsha achieved a pass rate of 76.1% in the 2015 NSC. Yes, I know why. An improvement of some 23% since 2009. Mr. Deputy Speaker, may I continue?
Yes, the noise level in the House is a little bit too high. Please give the member a chance to deliver his speech.
Thank you. In addition, the final results for the 2015 NSC revealed one underperforming school in Khayelitsha. Under the ANC in 2009, there were 15. And there are now more schools there than there were before. Where the DA governs, everyone benefits, especially the poor. This is what happens when you have a capable state, not a so-called capable state, a capable state, where the budget is managed effectively, efficiently, wisely, and ethically, something the ANC does not understand. More opportunities, thanks to the SAP's not funding properly, more opportunities are created for more people. Madam Speaker, if this is what we can achieve as a Mr. Deputy, if that is what we can achieve as a province in just over one term of office, imagine what we could achieve for the country as a whole. It is thus also quite clear that we did not inherit a flourishing system at all. In 2009, we inherited a system that was in decline, and it is directly as a result of a DA government that we have seen improvements in all our key indicators. The DA has a clear policy, unlike the ANC, which cannot seem to agree on whether it's implementing the National Development Plan or the New Growth Path. We have appointed officials who are capable and competent for the jobs they are doing, not based on their political loyalties. Under the DA, our treasury is not up for grabs to the highest bidder. In fact, it is not up for grabs at all. The DA's national education policy will be focused on instilling quality, accountability, and strong leadership into the system, as we have done in the Western Cape. In national government, we will have a sustained, focused, and systematic approach to improving education, as we have done in the Western Cape and will continue to do. A national DA government will work with provincial education departments to ensure that all learners receive fair opportunities to succeed in life. Under a national DA government, education departments will not have to spend precious resources protecting our schools and our children, because we will allocate sufficient police and social workers to address the societal issues that plague so many communities, not skew certain provinces in favour of others. The Western Cape is the epitome of the capable state and accountable fair government. Together we can achieve this at national level too. We can build a South Africa based on freedom, fairness, and opportunity for all our people. We have a proven track record in the Western Cape. Now it is up to the voters to give us an opportunity to take this to more and more places so that they can benefit from a government that is free of corruption, that manages its resources, both human and financial, effectively, so that more and more people can benefit, and our economy can grow so that the 8.3 million people who are unemployed under the ANC government can regain. In the Western Cape, we have tabled a budget for growth. But actually what we need is to grow the budget to provide for all the needs we have. And the only way that will happen is under a DA national government. Thank you.
The Honourable Christians.
Deputy Speaker, Minister Meyer said that the budget he presented in this House is more than rands and cents. He was talking about the opportunities for the people of the Western Cape. But, Deputy Speaker, not for a young lady that uttered the following words, and I quote, "I want to know why. Why did you do this when I told you not to? Now you made me do this when you just could have stopped. You could have listened. God gave us a free will. Why did you try to take mine away?" Close quote. This is the 21-year-old young woman who had to stop her music career because he's in hiding because he was courageous enough to lay a formal complaint at the SAPS against the member Marius Fransman. She's in hiding because now she cannot use this opportunity created by provincial government. And I want to say what Member Fransman said further. She said, Member Fransman said further, he said, a faction. He said a faction in the ANC has spent 10 million rand last year to get rid of him. A faction in the Western Cape ANC spent 10 million to get rid of him.
Order. Just 1 second. Honourable Bierwinkel.
Speaker, can
Order. Honourable Diana.
Can we please determine the relevance to this debate that the member is making? Please.
Order. Member, you may continue. This is a wide political debate, and that's in order. Please continue.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. They know it hurts, and I'm going to give it further. Member Fransman is saying the enemy is within, and he says they have lots and lots of cash. They're promising people jobs. They're asking people to table affidavits to sink him once and for all. That is what he's saying. Your own member Fransman is saying that. And I'm saying that we are looking at fiscal policy, and the ANC's got money to waste and get rid of Marius Fransman. Get rid of him. But let me say, Speaker, he's referring to a big tank of money. And Deputy Speaker, the ANC is playing musical chairs. Now you see them and now you don't. Because some of them are going to disappear. Some of them are going to disappear. They're not going to be here because they got a new leader. Now, Deputy Speaker, let me say the following. This is what I want to say. SAPS is doing absolutely nothing to assist this young lady. This young lady must put her life on hold because the ANC is playing political football with her. That is what they do. That is what they do with our young people. And Deputy Speaker, let me say, I just want to say the following also, that this lady has undergone counseling because of the political football the ANC is playing.
Order.
And they promise.
Remember, just finish your sentence. Your time has expired.
They're promising people job opportunities because they say they've got a big fund.
Order.
The ANC is busy falling. They're busy
has
falling. They're fighting.
Order. Order. Please come. Order. Please come to order. Please come to order before we allow the next member to start. The next speaker is Honourable Maseko.
Thank you very much. Deputy Speaker, Western Cape government under the DA's budget is aligned to the National Development Plan, not the GDP, Gupta Development Plan. Our ANC colleagues will never agree with our allocation because we don't need Guptas for our approval for our planning. Deputy Speaker.
Order.
Deputy Speaker, the writing is on the wall. The ANC of today, under the leadership of President Jacob Zuma, is the root of our downfall in South Africa. I often wish that President Zuma would remain mum because once he begins to talk, things fall apart in our country. In the foreword of his 2016-2017 annual performance plan, Minister Madikizela stated that by accelerating housing delivery and making state land available for urban densification, the department will have delivered 105,950 housing opportunities during 2014 to 2019 term of government, of which approximately 30,000 opportunities have been delivered. This is a mark of the Western Cape government's intent to redress past injustice and to give opportunities to the most deserving who qualify. Deputy Speaker, the Department of Human Settlements in Western Cape under the Democratic Alliance government exceeds standard targets by delivering housing opportunities better than any other province. Security of tenure has been increased through title deeds transfer. The writing is on the wall. South Africans must not despair. DA machine is heading for the Union building. We are facing trying times. Despite our budget constraint, we will continue to deliver to those most in need in our province. Budget cuts led to by the gross management of the national fiscus under the misguided leadership of the ANC government. The DA-led Western Cape government's key mandate is to create a growth-enabling environment so that we can create jobs. Our people need jobs.
Order.
When the Department of Human Settlements in the Western Cape delivers housing opportunities, it creates whole communities. The communities have room for job-creating economic interaction. Now, Deputy Speaker, here the National Minister of Sanitation is leveling the most ridiculous allegations against the Western Cape. I am recognizing her only as the Minister of Sanitation because she is talking sanitation, failing to supply water to communities in Mpumalanga, White River, whilst the money has been already allocated to deliver the water supply. There is no ANC government anywhere that understands deliver. Deputy Speaker, let me indulge you why my colleague from the opposition say we cannot talk about provinces like Gauteng. Irregular government expenditure totaled about 25.7 billion in the last financial year. This is the brand of ANC government that we have come to know. The Western Cape came out tops at 83% of departments receiving clean audits. The next best achiever was Gauteng at a mere 54%. It is no wonder that the ANC in this House fails to recognize the importance of clean audits as an indicator of the delivery, as they simply don't know. To the people of Western Cape, irregular expenditure is not a reality. However, the Gauteng Department of Human Settlements blew 1.9 billion in public money. I mean, other culprits of irregular expenditure were the Gauteng Department of Transport, which blew 1.9 billion.
Order.
Gauteng Department of
Let me just finish off your time, your last sentence.
That blew about 1.7 billion.
Thank you. Your time has expired.
Thank you.
Order. The Honourable Minister for Economic Opportunities, Honourable Windy.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, this is the political debate. This is the political debate on the budget. And you know, the people out there on this, watching us on television at the moment, they're probably saying to themselves, we've seen this movie before. And you know, I thought about that, and I thought about a movie.
I remember. Order.
Now, it wasn't me. Mr. Deputy Speaker, it wasn't me.
Order. I did not hear what it was, but that's not quite parliamentary, Honourable Windy.
I apologize,
Please
Deputy
continue.
Speaker. But Deputy Speaker,
Order. You may continue.
thank you, Deputy Speaker. You've all heard of the movie called The Last 48 Hours. Well, quite frankly, I'm taking this budget, and we've got two budgets. We've got a national budget and a provincial budget, and we can put them into two movies. We've got the ANC and the DA, we can put them into two movies. The first movie is the worst 48 hours. So let's look back at the last 48 hours from today. The last 48 hours in the ANC movie, Wasn't Me, was the theme song by Shaggy. We had Fekimento talking about Guptas and the president. Guess what the president said? Wasn't me. We talk about Fekimento saying the president says, I didn't know who she was. Wasn't me. She was the portfolio committee chair. She was the caucus chair. She flew to China with him. Wasn't me. Moody's are right here in this 48-hour movie looking to downgrade this country because of what the president did and the 500 billion that exited our economy. Guess what the president says? At the same time, as I left my office today, our Minister of Sport is on TV, Minister Mbalula. He's busy explaining about corruption in FIFA, and guess what he's saying? It wasn't me. Mr. Jonas came out yesterday. This is all in the last 48 hours, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Jonas came out yesterday telling how the Guptas were involved and offering him a post. He didn't say it wasn't me, but guess what's also happened in the last 48 hours? These members on this side of the House must remember a name, Sifiso Buthelezi, because we also believe that he's been brought into government. He was just sworn in right now. He was sworn in to actually take out Mcebisi Jonas because he's now pushing against this space that we find ourselves in. The theme song of this worst 48 hours, it wasn't me. The second movie, Mr. Deputy Speaker, the best 48 hours. Let's have a look at the last 48 hours in this province. So we could talk today, I could stand here and talk about the 2 schools that were delivered yesterday. There we go. I could stand here, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and talk about the meeting that the Premier and Minister Matikizela had today in launching the first phase of 17,000 houses out in Fisantekraal. I could have spoken about the award that our airport won last night in Germany as the best airport in Africa and the best staff award in Africa out of 550 airlines. Voted on by 13 million people, voted this airport as the best airport in Africa and its staff as the best airport in Africa. Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the last 48 hours, what I could talk about is I could talk about the launch of the latest French investment into a French tech center that was launched in Cape Town last night. Or I could talk about the Wi-Fi hotspots that we launched yesterday, the 51st free Wi-Fi hotspots, post our trial on the broadband project, one of the streams in the broadband project, and that enabling environment, this enabling environment that we are creating in this country, in this province, Mr. Deputy Speaker. On the back of that rollout, and these members should listen, because it's creating an enabling environment. We are rolling out a free Wi-Fi hotspot in every single ward of this province. The Honourable Beerwinkel spoke about only focus on the city, and every single ward of this province getting a free Wi-Fi hotspot, Mr. Deputy Speaker. So go and speak to the people in Bontehevel or Bridgetown or Elswood Primary. Go and speak to these places where these hotspots, these 50 have rolled out. But not only the 250 megs that you're going to get free and the unlimited access to government. Let's look at the pricing that's going to follow on the back of that free Wi-Fi. No one in South Africa has seen this price before. After you've used your free Wi-Fi, you can buy 700 megs further or more, 700 megs more for 5 Rand. 5 Rand for 700 megs, 15 Rand for 2 gigs, and 45 Rand for 5 gigabytes of data. That doesn't happen in any other province. But on the back of that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in a rural area where we've ran our first pilot project, this innovation came out. This innovation, which is now for sale, you can buy these at 100 Rand. This innovation came out when we rolled out the pilot Wi-Fi hotspots. And this innovation, where a hotspot gives you 100 meters around the aerial connectivity, this gives you a 1 kilometer. The inventor of this lives in a shack 1 kilometer away. After he invented this piece of equipment, he can get free Wi-Fi 100 meters away. Now, he now sells these products. On the back of this Wi-Fi broadband, just less than 48 hours ago, I met with this entrepreneur. He was in this house when the Premier made her State of the Province address. Mr. Katlego Mapai, this is his company, which empowers small SMMEs. This company is the company that empowers spaza shops, that empowers the millions and millions of companies because it's very cost effective and promotes small businesses. But my last point on the back of this broadband, Mr. Deputy Speaker, is this morning I was handing out the prizes of a small competition that we run on how you use the internet in your society. A lady came to my office as one of the winners. Her name is Tobeka.
Minister, just 1 second. Honourable Jantjie, I've been very patient with you today. I want to name you by name now. Please discontinue all your interjections. You can't continuously comment on every statement made by the Minister. Please continue,
Mr.
Minister.
Deputy Speaker, her name is Tobeka Yorsi. She used the free Wi-Fi in Delft at the pilot project. She was surfing the internet and found a writing competition. She wrote into the writing competition. It was in the Netherlands. She's then got a job for a magazine in the Netherlands. This is the job. It's called African. She now serves on the board of this company, and she's opening South Africa's version of African Woman in December on the back of this Wi-Fi that was rolled out in this province. So, Mr. Deputy Speaker, in the last 48 hours, we've got 2 movies. The one theme song, It Wasn't Me. The other theme song of the best 48 hours is the South African anthem, Mr. Deputy Speaker. And we are going to the Oscars very soon. I can assure you that the voters of this province and of this country need to make a choice. And they need to choose whether they want the worst 48 hours or the best 48 hours. And I'm going to tell you that the Oscar is going to go, because of these kind of interventions on the budget spend of this government and on the policies of this government, that's where the Oscars are going to end up. Thank you, Mr. Deputy.
Order. Honourable Makaleni.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Now back to the serious business of the House and leave the movies and the Oscars and the cartoon characters to those who are good at.
Order.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, the DA government really does not care about the majority of our people, especially the poor and the rural citizens, mainly women in this province. The vulnerable section of our society include unemployed women, youth and people living with disabilities. More importantly, and worrying factor is the young people who are increasingly plunged into drug and substance abuse, exposed to almost daily gang violence and crime. Most recently, Cape Town is rated the high in terms of crime statistics and is among the 10 most violent cities in the world and #1 in South Africa. In order for this budget to be relevant and meaningful to the society, it must seek to address the social ills faced, particularly in poor communities in this province. We see and read about this every day, and the government of the day must be seen to be serious in eradicating this demon. We know that one of the effective ways of fighting crime is to provide financial resources where they are needed most. Areas such as Kraaifontein, Delft, Kayamnandi, Mizamo Yetu, and Philippi are forced to live with overflowing drains and uncollected rubbish. Young children have to pass by daily, exposed them to harmful health risks. This budget is silent on how the government plans to eradicate dirt and filthy surroundings in poor communities. In terms of 2011 census, Khayelitsha had 391,749 population, and is reported to have gone up to 2.2 million in the last 10 years. Its unemployment rate was recorded as 65.18%. Over 50% of unemployed are young people between the ages of 18 and 35 years of age. Hence, the implicable crime and violence are so high. Where are the 1.5 million jobs created in Khayelitsha, as announced by my man? I ask really. This irresponsible statement contradicts the freezing of already approved posts across the department as austerity measures imposed by the DA government. The freezing of job is at the expense of jobs for young people, in particular the young graduates. A glimpse across the social cluster departments, namely community safety, health, education, and social development, we observe a glaring absence of investments to women and youth empowerment and development, whereas they are critical and most affected members of the community. Women development cannot be left to chance. It needs conscious and dedicated financial investment. Therefore, the arrogance and ignorance of the DA government is not addressing the Agenda 2030 of the UN and the NDP. For an example, in social department, women development is a mere statement that does not find expression into departmental programs. In fact, in the Poverty Alleviation and Sustainable Livelihood sub-program, the revised estimates have reduced by 57.31%. On the other hand, we remain concerned with funding. Payment and estimate is excessively high for contractors, outsourced services, and consumable supplies at 16.17%, 75.13%, and 257.83% respectively. The same department is reportedly struggling to find foster homes for disabled children in the province. There are 800 of 1,000 disabled children who need to be placed. Further, there is a huge backlog of 743 care orders requiring extension. In the education front, there are still schools that are overcrowded, like in Wallasdene. A promise to build extra rooms and employ more teachers had not been met. One SGB recently said, "We are nearing end of the term now, and those promises have not been fulfilled." Other subjects such as life orientation are dropped. Classrooms have between 49 and 69 pupils, and they have to take turns to sit on the floor. This unbearable situation is still facing public school in poor communities, yet the department received lion's share of the budget in the financial year. Interestingly, the health department is found wanting in dealing with closure of GF Chaucer Hospital. It is reported that MEC Mbombo said site for the facility had not yet been decided, but funding was available for the business case. What business case, I ask? One Mr. Esau Anthony died in Mitchell's Plain Hospital, and his family blames the hospital for poor service delivery, whilst Thomas' family from Red Hill accused Fallsbay Hospital of insensitivity for the mysterious death of their child, Likamva Chamta. In 2015, the department received more than 5,600 complaints due to poor services rendered in hospitals. It will be seen that the budget is insensitive in terms of its patterns of expenditure. We see funding is increased disproportionately in non-core functions such as advertising, catering, entertainment, consultants, and professional services. We understand then that it is elections time, as if the department lacks capacity to manage various projects and programs, as opposed to core functions such as filling of both infrastructure development, goods and services, namely providing adequate medicines in public hospitals, building enough schools and classrooms. Equally, I am concerned with trends across many, if not all, the departments where funding seeks to favor City of Cape Town municipality than a smaller municipality that happen to be more rural communities with little economic activities other than farming and retail industries. In closing, Deputy Speaker, this budget is failing to address the key social constraints affecting poor, youth, women, disabled, and rural communities.
Thank you. Order. I see the Honourable Nkasela.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, to expect the ANC government to do anything better for this country would be like expecting a snake to fly. The reality is we are facing an ANC government that has lost credibility, whose president has not only lied to this country, but who has failed on his oath that he took in Parliament. Schedule 2 of the Constitution, subsection 1, which he has read in full view of all members in Parliament in the National Assembly and in front of all of us and the world. This is a president, South Africa, that we do not deserve. And I can tell you now that when we look at them going to this NEC over the weekend and expect that there will be anything different there, ingomi ngazalumtu ngoba kunzima. Apha eWestern Cape, we look at our budget, we give hope, we give meaning to the kind of government that South Africa deserves. Last year, when we had our own Congress in PE on the 9th and 10th of May, we took a decision to adopt a values charter that we gave hope to the millions of South Africans that when we are in power in this country, which is the government that we are promising, that freedom will mean not only words, but it will mean that the many young children who go to school without prospects of hope, they will be able to have a better future for themselves. And the employers and the employees who go to work without a fair and safe environment in South Africa today, when the DA takes power, will have a better environment. And also when we talk about good education and fair education and fair living conditions, you heard what Minister Allen Winder said about Minister Matigizela and the housing. That will mean that South Africa will live in a much better and fair environment, and that opportunities will be given to a majority of South Africans, not to those who are close and friends to Zuma and Guptas. Now, when you look at South Africa today, with a 7% interest rate increase to date, and you also look at what Musa has said, Business Unity South Africa, asking the president to be fair in appointment of businesses. When they give tenders, they must give them fairly, and they must give to everybody in a fair and open, transparent system. We had the president proposing to us that they want to have tenders centralized. Imagine what would have happened. We are opposed to that nonsense because they want to give tenders to friends and families. If you're not Zuma, you are not Gupta, you are nothing in this country. And we do not want a situation like that, and that is why the DA government is the reality in this very future to ensure that South Africa is a much better place whilst we have a time to do so. We've got to save South Africa from this problem. We've got to save South Africa from this crisis. We cannot sit back and do nothing about it. Enough is enough. It cannot continue unabatedly. The only province where we've got cash reserves, more than 1.2 billion rands, that we're able to say if there is a crisis beyond what we are seeing, we will be able to ensure that we can save this province. But nowhere else in this country, guess what happens? It's Zuma, it's Gupta. Only them, they've got security of food, they've got security of lifestyle. Everybody else, we don't have any security because we don't matter to this president and to this ANC. Shame. Kunzi.
Order, member, your time's expired.
Kunzi.
Order. I see the Honourable Bernard Joseph.
Thank you, Speaker. I have note about the first and the last 48 hours, but we will wait for another time to respond to that. EFF are unimpressed with the Western Cape Finance MEC announcement of the Western Cape Provincial budget for the year 2016-2017, as it is anti-people and anti-poor. The measures in the budget are not designed to help the poor and the vulnerable. We have had an increase in the thresholds that will not make a difference in the people's life. So this budget has absolutely nothing for poor people. Those were the areas where one would have thought that the Western Cape government would seek to transfer more resources to most vulnerable in our province. Clearly, this budget is designed to serve the interests of a selected few closely aligned to the DA. As EFF, we would recommend that the Western Cape government humanize this budget, reversing and adjusting some of the measures outlined by the Minister in favor of policies and programs that will directly benefit the poor, struggling masses. This budget clearly reflects an attack on the poor, the young and families. The RDP houses provided are an insult to the people. The amount set aside for housing clearly illustrates the intention to further dehumanize the poor people of this province. Money set aside for the eviction of the poorest of the poor by the DA's anti-land eviction units should be utilized for housing instead. Coupled with this, also on a daily basis in our communities, we must battle for clean water, must worry about lack of sanitation and sanitation services. Schools in poor communities must be upgraded and additional classroom must be built. The systematic breakdown of schools in poorer communities is a result of bad governance by the DA Western Cape. This results in the preservation of previously white schools with high fee structures, forcing families to transport children to these so-called good schools. The money set aside for training is another process to enrich the DA-connected cronies, thus providing training programs with zero benefit. On housing, 11,000 houses for 2016. What about Blikkiesdorp? 11,000 houses. What about the 204 informal settlement? As EFF, we therefore request that the budget be adjusted to service the poor, and they are not staying in Kempsburg, Greenpoint, and Constantia. I'm glad that you raise it. One day when the characters in the movie of the accident on Saldanha is being opened up, we will see, you will smile.
Thank you, member. Your time has now expired. I see Minister Grant, Minister of Transport and Public Works.
Deputy Speaker, honourable members of the Western Cape Parliament, my Cabinet colleague, Minister Meyer, is to be congratulated on tabling a responsible, sustainable budget for the 2016 MTEF period. Despite the economic circumstances, he has been able to announce a budget focused on growth. Minister Meyer's words, the budget is about inclusive growth, sustainable growth, and smart growth. An outstanding example of this smart growth was the announcement yesterday by the Premier of the rollout of the first 50 of 384 Wi-Fi hotspots, which will bring affordable internet access to thousands of poorer residents, increasing essential information availability and, in many instances, reducing the need to travel. This Western Cape government is indeed an example of a capable government within a national state which is increasingly unable to become the capable state set out in its own national development plan. Deputy Speaker, in this regard, it would be remiss of me not to make some reference to the national level political actions which are so destructive of South Africa's progress. When I addressed this House on the 23rd of February, I referred to the bizarre actions of the President in reducing the value of South Africa by an estimated 500 billion by playing a game of musical chairs with a key position of the Minister of Finance. One would think that that sort of damage would result in a major shift in strategy and the rollout of a comprehensive plan of damage control. But no, not in the thinking of the ANC-led national government. Just when Minister Gordon had tried to settle the nerves of the national and international finance and investor community, he too was thrown to the wolves through the very public, badly managed, and even worse-timed fight about SARS. By then, it would have been understandable if the voters of this country, watching on in disbelief, had thought that nothing worse could happen to rock their already fragile financial world. But again, no. This damaging state of affairs was in turn trumped by the revelations of yesterday, confirming that a single ultra-wealthy foreign family believed it was in a position to offer the post of Minister of Finance to another ANC politician. Deputy Speaker, is this what the national government means when it claims to be striving to meet the ideal of a capable state? No. This is the action of an increasingly chaotic state whose integrity is being steadily hijacked by outside, usually financial interests, which enrich a small group of ANC party loyalists. In business terms, the shareholders of South Africa, ordinary citizens, are having their interests sold out from under them. As a consequence, too many face a bleaker future than they could ever have imagined, and not all are in a position to relocate to the only province which represents the reality of a capable state. But, Deputy Speaker, the time of passive shareholders is rapidly disappearing. Shareholder activism is the order of the new day. Any businessman will tell you that. In the same way, South Africa's shareholders, the voting public, will use the next shareholders' meeting, the upcoming local government elections, to record their rejection of the current board, including its chairman, President Zuma. When in this House, I previously asked what the ANC has become a byword for, I used the comparison of FIFA, which had for many become a byword for corruption. In this regard, it is interesting to note that the value of a background in the ANC has decreased so much that Tokyo Sekwali had to withdraw ignominiously at the last minute from the contest to choose the next president of FIFA. A few years ago, his time as a premier and a cabinet minister would have guaranteed him at least a serious chance, if not automatic selection. In 2016, it did not even bring him SAFA's vote. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. I have no doubt that the very serious allegations now emerging from FIFA about South Africa's Soccer World Cup will do even more damage. So, Deputy Speaker, this is the fragile economic and political climate in which Minister Meyer tabled his responsible budget in support of the Premier Sopa's vision for the next 3 years. Deputy Speaker, as Minister of Transport and Public Works, it would be remiss of me not to highlight a particular result of the above political and economic turmoil, which has the potential to impact negatively on the lives of many of the people who live in this province. I refer to the increasing instability within Transnet and PRASA, both of which are key to our residents having access to improved commuter services and to our efforts to get heavy freight off our road network and back onto rail. Rail, which has been demonstrated throughout the world as being the most efficient and cost-effective mover of freight. In a very disturbing move, the international rating agency Moody has placed all ratings relative to Transnet on review for a downgrade. With Transnet in the middle of implementing its 7-year demand strategy, this is no laughing matter. Involving a planned 300 billion rand investment in ports and rail, the review will lengthen the 7-year implementation plan to 10 years and increase the cost to between 340 and 380 billion rand. That is no laughing matter. The Business Day of yesterday reported a respected credit analyst at a leading financial institution as saying about this development. It is not about Transnet, but it's about the government. And so, Speaker, there's an economic price to pay for political game playing. Unfortunately, the people who pay this price are usually ordinary, poor citizens. Fortunately, these ordinary citizens all have a vote and will increasingly begin to vote on the basis of their day-to-day experience and not on the basis of some historical obligation. Deputy Speaker, Minister's Mayor's budget also gives effect to the commitment of the Western Cape Government to inclusive growth. The budget therefore highlights the role of this government as a catalyst across various municipalities which have been able to provide supportive physical structures and facilities to improve the lives of their residents and communities. To this end, an amount of 26.7 billion is budgeted for such infrastructure in local and district municipalities. I will expand on the details of some of these initiatives during my budget vote on the 30th of March. Suffice it to emphasize today that these initiatives cover a wide range of road and communication improvements, education, health and social development facilities, as well as other government offices. The distribution of this investment is obviously directed by a range of current socio-economic considerations, policies and strategies aimed at improving the life chances of people in the Western Cape. In closing, Speaker, I would like to echo Minister Mayor's appreciation of the way in which all of us have worked together in very difficult economic times to contribute to workable, affordable plans which can give people hope in a future for them and their children. Deputy Speaker, better together is the way to go. I thank you.
Thank you, Minister Grant. The Honourable Dennis Joseph.
Baie dankie, achtbare Speaker. Ek het die toespraak voorberei, maar ek wil ook vanmiddag eintlik met 'n vraag begin wat sê, wat vra Fytjie, waar is jy? En sy het geantwoord, want die president het geantwoord, sy is in die kamer langsaan. En ek wil ook by die minister se stelling aansluit waar die minister verwys na die headcount. Ek was in die parlement 2011 toe hierdie headcount al begin, maar die ANC is nog nie klaar getel nie. Hulle tel, want hulle kan nie die spook mense vind wat in die regering werk nie. En dis een groot probleem wat ons het. En dan in die ANC praat glad nie meer in die Weskaap van die nasionale ontwikkelingsplan nie. Dink, hier is verdeeldheid. Ons praat daarvan, want ons onderskryf hierdie plan wat die ANC ingebring het. Die Weskaap. Maar die debat vandag moet vir ons 'n aanduiding gee of ons as regering of politieke leiers waarde toevoeg tot die uitbou van hierdie land. Ons demokratiese land, gegeewe ons geskiedenis van apartheid, 'n geskiedenis van oorlog, wat genoodsaak het dat ons selfs die Menseregtedag moet ingestel het. Maar die geskiedenis leer ook vir ons dat niemand so oorlog wen nie. En die leiers by name meneer de Klerk en ons eerste president, demokratiese president Mandela het ook tot die besef gekom dat niemand gaan hierdie oorlog wen nie. Selfs nie die dood van Chris Hani kon die visie vir 'n demokratiese Suid-Afrika stop nie. Ons land het gevorder tot op 2007 en 2008 het dit goed gegaan toe daar 'n wêreldse ekonomiese ineenstorting was. Maar ongelukkig in dieselfde tyd het die ANC ook beleef 'n politieke ineenstorting toe hulle ontslae ontraak van meneer Mbeki. Dit het die land seer gemaak. Ons premier toe sy aftree verlede jaar as leier van die DA het gesê dat die toekoms kan nie geskat word nie, die toekoms moet geskep word. En in die Weskaap skep ons 'n nuwe toekoms. Dit is makliker om die blame te blameer te plaas op iemand anders of die blame te plaas op die verlede as om 'n klimaat te skep vir 'n visie waar 'n leier 'n fondasie lê vir 'n toekoms vir 'n nuwe Suid-Afrika. Maar ons president agbare adjunkt speaker skep 'n klimaat van onsekerheid, 'n klimaat van wanhoop vir die burgers, 'n klimaat van selfsugtigheid, 'n klimaat van eie belang en 'n klimaat van verdeeldheid binne die ANC. Die sukses van 'n leier word ook gemeet aan vorige leiers se prestasies en die geskiedenis skets nie net vorige gebeurtenisse nie, die geskiedenis moet vir ons wysheid bring. En ek dink die ANC benodig wysheid. Hulle benodig nuwe leiers en hulle benodig ook nuwe leiers in die Weskaap. Maar die staatsbeheerde entiteite waarvan die minister van Finansies gepraat het en ook ons in die Weskaap van praat, wat nie waarde toevoeg nie, moet ondersoek word. En ek is bly dat die ANC in die nasionale parlement, by name die minister van Finansies en die vorige minister, die DA se oproepe nou besef dat dit moet in werking gestel word. Dit is baie belangrik om nou te besef dat ek dink daai twee ministers het genoeg wysheid binne die ANC. Adjunct Speaker, verlede week in Stellenbosch het meneer Tony eendag tydens 'n radioberig, 'n radiodebat van meer as een keer saamgestem met die EFF. En op dieselfde radiodebat het die EFF die samewerking met die ANC verwerp. Die 1 miljard besnoeiing van die begroting oor 3 jaar is 'n gesonde beleid wat net die Weskaap kan instel. Die Weskaap regering sal volhoubare groei, goeie regering, inklusief vir die mense om ons almal so vorentoe te vat. In die stede sowel as in die landelike gebiede sal daar voorkeur en voordele wees van ons begroting. Die DA bly verbind tot ekonomiese groei, werkskepping, 'n goeie onderwysstelsel met basiese dienste aan almal en die verkamping van misdaad.
Dit uw tyd is verstreke. Is u nog
Baie dankie.
is u klaar? Dankie.
Baie dankie.
I see the Honourable Chacha.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I think it's not worth it to respond to some members of the committees, the chairperson of the committees, who did not even say a word about the budget, which they're supposed to oversee. They're supposed to oversee. It's not worth it. Clearly, they don't know why they are here. They must ask themselves, is it worth it? Is it worth it for them to come and sit here and misuse taxpayers' money? They must ask themselves. You know, it's not even worth it to respond to MEC Windy, because even Trevor Noah cannot do those gimmicks. They are useless, particularly in the budget speech. You know, let's, in this House, Deputy Speaker, we must pray for the pastor, because our pastor here clearly has been indoctrinated. The pastor who's leading ACDP has actually been indoctrinated. It's not worth it. Really, we are going to pray for him and make sure that he comes right and serve his constituency, because he's supposed to have a constituency, not to be an underdog of DA in this House. This year, we mark the 60th anniversary of a historic march of women to the Union buildings in 1956. And as we approach our Women's Day in a few days, with millions of women in the Western Cape who continue to live in subhuman conditions, we know that women, particularly black women, are the worst, the receiving end of the triple crisis of poverty, unemployment, and inequalities. This budget, as tabled by the NEC, does not speak to women economic emancipation and their active participation in the economy. For a province where more than 50% of the population of this province are women, one would have imagined that the women economic emancipation would at least be mentioned by the MEC. But unfortunately, nothing to that effect. Of course, we know that the Honourable Mayor has been, MEC Mayor has been forced by the Premier not to raise these issues about women emancipation, because you can see how the cabinet is formed. You can see how the position, particular position, senior position of this provincial government look like. Women do not even take about 50% of those positions. And through the committees, we have been able to prove that women are getting backseat in this provincial government. So we are not surprised to see that the MEC is not mentioning, is not talking about the emancipation of women and making sure that we mainstream the economic mention. Therefore, in his speech, Finance Minister said that this budget is a budget for growth. It's a budget where it's geared, it's challenging, it's going to make sure that it brings everyone together. But it is clear that the budget does not talk to inclusivity. It talks to the skewness of the budget. All the other regions that you have, they have even less than what the municipality of the city of Cape Town is having. There is no equity which is being given to those municipalities, and you expect them to perform as like the city of Cape Town. Clearly, the MEC must look at how do we make sure that in those municipalities we are able to put budgets that are going to assist for their economic emancipation, economic growth. We can't continue to rely only, MEC, on the city of Cape Town. There are many other municipalities who contribute in agriculture, who contribute in other spheres that develops economy, and yet throughout this program, throughout your speech, we are unable to mention and give more equitable fund to those municipalities. In fact, it maintains what the minister gave us. It maintains the ownership patterns that we find ourselves. It's clearly going to continue to be the participation of black majority will always be sidelined under the DA. And unfortunately, the DA is, as it is here for the next 3-5 years, our people, the majority, are going to continue not to benefit from what they have fought for many years. And it's going to mean that as a community, in particularly the majority, the inclusivity that we find, it keeps blacks as slaves here in this province. It keeps blacks under the white helm. It maintains the racially unequal economy. The glaring imperatives of the inclusive economy are very clear, that we're supposed to talk, MEC, about the equitable growth. You're supposed to talk about the income distribution. You're supposed to talk about the changing of ownership patterns. But clearly, it's not going to happen under how your budget has been structured. The budget is supposed to speak how we transform the apartheid special economy, how we transform the human settlement patterns to integrate the economy.
Member, just 1 second. Minister Wendy has the question. Oh.
Yes, please. I would like to know if the honourable member, esteemed speaker on the floor, would take a question.
Honourable Chacham, are you prepared to take a question?
Yes.
The answer is no, he's not prepared. So please continue.
Thanks, Deputy Speaker. The budget in itself, MEC, it does not speak to the informal economy, in which the majority of that informal economy, you have women participating. And yet this budget is quiet about making sure that we continue to grow that informal economy and make sure that they participate equally like other players in the economy. It does not speak to young people. How do we integrate young people in the mainstream of the economy? Because young people is not only about looking for jobs. Young people must be able to be part of the new ownership patterns. That must be, I'm sure MEC Wendy does not know that. It's something that it's not DA policy.
Order. Remember, your time has expired, unfortunately.
Okay. The only The only thing that we must say.
Order, order, order. I'll allow you one sentence.
Yeah,
Finish off.
Even what
Order, order, members. Allow the member to finish off.
about the ITZ, that ITZ does not have a plan for black industrial development.
Thank you, member. You've made your point now. Thank you. The Honourable Minister Fritz, Social Development.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. As I rise in this House today, I can announce that the repo rate has just been increased by 25 basis points. And what it essentially means is that less money is put into our pocket through this ANC government. And they are the surrogates of this ANC government, and that's how I want to start. I want to continue and say that constantly the theme coming from the ANC is that we consistently talk about national government. But we need to sketch our existence because they themselves asked us whether we a separate state or part of South Africa. So we need to contextualize our existence within the national economic situation, Honourable Deputy Speaker. And when I speak about the national economic situation, I may as well say the national economic disaster. It is disastrous for a number of points. The one is we have complete uncertainty as we stand here today, and that's why we have another repo rate increase. We don't know whether the Minister of Finance, the national minister that is, whether he's going to be here by tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. We don't know whether Deputy Minister, Minister Jonas is going to be here, and whether he's going to be here for today or tomorrow. Because the country has been taken over by a particular mafia led by the Honourable, and I don't know whether we can still say the Honourable, but by our President Jacob Zuma. And it's not only, it is, and I think the notion, Honourable Deputy Speaker, of state capture starts with him. Because what we have seen, every institution of state, every part of state, and that's why they have this huge fight for the treasury. We have seen the MBA has been captured by the Zuma faction. We have seen they tried it with some of the others, but every state-owned entity, almost every, in fact, all of them, have been captured by the faction Zuma. And of course, Zuma captures the state, and then his friends, the Guptas, and the Guptas. And then what we see further is that the Guptas capture him. And so the capture of the state is actually through him. They capture Zuma, and that's all they need to capture. And so I think it's important when we talk, and when we want to talk about this government in this province. We're the only government who's not the ANC government. In the Afrikaans is daar baie pragtige uitdrukking. Dis was vis en vleis. The verskil is was vis en vleis. But allow me, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I saw a number of members here today, ministers who are very poetic, and there's one Afrikaans poem by Afrikaans, and what some of these people call a brain Afrikaans, or so-called colored poet called S.W. Peterson, and he says, in die Afrikaanse gedig gaan soos dit, en hy sê, laat dan wees o Heer, dat ek 1000 jaar gelede teen God en mens gesondig het, dan weet ek nou dis u besluit. En dan gaan hy aan. And today I really think of him. I think of this poet when he speaks of, and I think of the ANC when he talks about, nie net 1020 jaar, laat dit dan wees o Heer, dat ons as die ANC vir 20 jaar teen God en mens gesondig het, dan weet ons nou dat ons is besig om te val. En ek dink dis die pragtige Afrikaanse gedig wat so waar word in hierdie geval. And it's in that context that we need to say today, when we gather here, that we almost came here today, not to praise Zuma and the ANC, but to bury them. And I think that's what we need to say here today.
One of them voted for Zuma.
Exactly. And the Zuma ANC protection and beneficiation record that now lies at the heart of our national government is our state, and that is the sad part. The time has come for us, Honourable Deputy Speaker, and I'm very serious when I say this, where we unequivocally have to say The time has come for Jacob Zuma and the ANC to go. We cannot allow the poor people to be pushed further into the grave of poverty. To be further, the ladies, honorable members spoke about the toilets at the back. I saw the mud schools in the Eastern Cape and I almost vomited when I saw that. And I see what we talk is we must be consistent when we do it. And I think, I don't want to say, and I don't want to wish it further away. It's important. The issue of the toilets is important and we must address it. We must address it as a government. All of us together must address it and we must walk away from it. But it reminds me when I think of the ANC, I am reminded of the title of the famous novel by Kenyan post-colonial novelist Nguni, who says, things fall apart. The center will not hold. And for it, the ANC center is completely destroyed. It's crumbling. It's fraught on the border. And so allow me now to address some of the issues that's been raised by some of our honorable members. I just want to emphasize what Minister Meyer very eloquently described is the state of our economy and the state almost of moving towards a depression, moving towards all the time being downgraded. Yo, it's heavy. It is really heavy. You know, this province, and I want to say, Honorable Speaker, that Minister Meyer reminded this House that for a long time since this government, after taking over from the ANC, we exercise fiscal discipline. We were the only people when you get into an aeroplane. They came now with this thing about getting into economy class. We walk past all the ANC officials in front, right to the back, and we sit in economy class. For the last 10 years, we've been doing that. And we're so proud of that. Yes, all sit in economy class. And we're very proud of it. Because we don't believe that government is about paraphernalia and about looking like you're important and blue lights because you all want to be important. The Honorable Bierwinkel made a number of very interesting points. It's consistently this narrative that the money comes from the ANC or the national government. I wonder who pays the tax. I wonder where the money comes from. In fact, they steal the money as the national government. A whole lot of people pay tax, so we deserve the money. And I think we must understand that into our heads. And then we always get the last bit of the tax. And so please understand that. I want to talk, Honorable Speaker, and I want to immediately address a number of speakers, including the Honorable Chacham, who spoke. And when the Honorable Mayor spoke about the budget, that's a budget for growth, it's a budget for inclusivity, and it's a budget for sustainability. And to illustrate this, just for your purposes, the Honorable Bierwinkel, is the inclusive budget speaks in my department. For the first time in the existence of this provincial government, we have seen so much money going to disabilities. I tell you, they forgot about the disabled people. They have completely forgotten. And this former government, this is the former government sitting opposite us. They're the very government who didn't build those toilets where women are raped today. The very same government sitting here. And so they're a waste of time. That's what they are. In fact, they are such a waste of time in the other provinces still that our government, the Honorable Debbie Schaffer, Minister Debbie Schaffer, had just received a 50 million extra from the Eastern Cape government because they can't build schools. They're incapable of building schools. That's called the incapable state, Honorable Deputy Speaker. And this is the essence of what we're talking about today. The capable state versus the incapable state. Gauteng got 200 million, of course, they will always get more. But that's the point, and a total amount of 530 was returned to Treasury from the Eastern Cape Education Department alone. That is disgusting, that is disgraceful, that is what ANC governance means everywhere. Be it in a municipality or in a province, they are a disgrace. Don't worry, my blood pressure will go up and down. I really want to, I want to say to the Reverend that they have a big problem with the Reverend. They say he must pray for them. I think they need a prayer. And, the Reverend makes a very important point. They all spoke about women and women's rights. No one is saying anything about the Buba woman who's been the victim of, allegedly, well, they can't deal with it. That woman is lost. Not one of them said anything in this house about that woman. So don't talk about women. You are hypocrites. Stop talking about women. Because just when you suit, then you want to talk about women. There's a poor victim. No one knows what happened. The police is not moving. So don't talk about women, please. I want to say to the Honorable Maseko also, this other notion about clean audits, they're so lost that they, of course, can't promote clean audits because you won't find a clean audit anywhere where they are governing. So that's why they continue to say they have a problem now with clean audits, Amazing, amazing, amazing. But I think the most important point that Minister Wendy made, and again, Minister Wendy made the point that more than 68% of our budget goes to the poor. Come with me. I'll take them to the girl in a place called Bitterfontein. Honorable Cham spoke about young entrepreneurs. Come, I take you to a girl who went through our programs and who's running a lovely shop at the moment, a little klein winkeltjie, and she makes a little bit of money that can take her forward. So stop, and that's one. I can take you to many more. There's amazing programs, and in fact, I want to take the honorable, what's the honorable at the back? My honorable member, with me to come and see some of the programs we do for women empowerment. Because they say a lot of things in this house, but in the committee they say the opposite. Makaleni, that I want to say. But I also want to address the Honorable Makaleni, just in terms of, she's been saying something about the police. She's been saying that we don't care about the safety. They own the Kailicha Commission. And I want to read this bit from the Kailicha Commission. She says, SAPS could provide no explanation why police stations that have very high crime rates and extremely difficult policing environments should have the lowest police to population ratio in the province. The Commission considered the problem lies with their whole plan and the design, which appears to display a systemic bias against the poor areas by this national ANC government who controls the police. Let us remind you that what you say in the House is the biggest lot of absolute nonsense to what is really happening. I want to go on.
Orde, agter minister. Is ongelukkig daai winkeltjie se deurtjie nou moet sluit. Die tyd is verstreek.
Ja, ek wil net conclude. I just want to conclude by saying. Is it?
Tyd is verstreke, maar as jy laaste.
I just want to conclude that, Honorable, we will, as a provincial government and a budget allocated to us, continue competent governance and them destroying government, destroying.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Sure, Honourable Deputy Speaker, this place was all over the show. I want to thank the honourable members that took part in this debate. I want to, in particular, when I listened to Honourable Minister of Education, Honourable Member Christians, Honourable Member Maseko, the Minister of Economic Opportunities, the Honourable Kasela, Honourable Member Joseph, and Minister Grant, and Minister Fritz, there's one central theme. Minister Madigizela gave me a shorter version of it. He said, we are in the CC, listening to this debate. CC is not appraising, CC is we are as a country, madam, we are in a constitutional crisis. We are in a constitutional crisis. I'm pointing at you because you don't understand the nature of this crisis. I withdraw my finger, but not my argument. Honourable Speaker, Deputy Speaker, the analysis of this debate is South Africa is facing a constitutional crisis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is a crisis. If I listen to the Honourable Minister of Transport, the Honourable Minister of Education, the Honourable Minister of Economic Opportunities, this crisis, Honourable Deputy Speaker, is deep. So let us examine the nature of the constitutional crisis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I looked today extensively back into the Constitution because part of the principles of good governance is predictability. We are asking in this crisis, what can we predict? And the Constitution gives us the answer. And Honourable Deputy Speaker, I looked at Section 2 of the Constitution, which determines that the Constitution is the supreme law of South Africa. It does not say that the Guptas are the supreme law of South Africa. And so, Honourable Deputy Speaker, it is a hashtag no, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, Section 7 of the Constitution determines that the Bill of Rights is the cornerstone of our democracy. Honourable Deputy Speaker, it does not say that the Guptas is the cornerstone of our democracy. Hashtag no, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I looked also at Section 18 of the Constitution, which determines that everyone has the freedom of association. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I've looked at it, and it's the Deputy Minister of Finance, B.C. Jonas, has the right of disassociation and disassociate himself from the Guptas. Hashtag no, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also looked at Section 91 of the Constitution.
Deputy Speaker.
Section 91. You would like a copy of the
Minister,
Constitution?
just 1 second.
Yes, a copy?
Minister,
you can check.
Just to take your seat. Honourable Chacha.
I would like to know if the Minister can take only one question.
Minister, are you prepared?
You set a good example. I follow your example.
The answer seems to be no, unfortunately.
You're a good man. I like you. I follow your example. You're a brilliant person to follow. I follow your example. But, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I looked at Section 91 of the Constitution because the members clearly indicated that this is a constitutional crisis in South Africa. And I see that Section 91 of the Constitution determines that the President and not Mr. Gupta is the head of the Cabinet. And so, Honourable Deputy Speaker, hashtag no, Mr. President. I also read, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that in terms of Section 91, subsection 2, determines that the President appoints ministers. I don't see any reference in the Constitution that Mr. Gupta appoints ministers in his cabinet. Hashtag no, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also read in Section 95 of the Constitution that ministers must undertake an oath or an affirmation to the Republic of South Africa. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I do not see in this Constitution any reference that ministers must undertake an oath to Mr. Gupta. Hashtag no, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also read that in terms of Section 97 of the Constitution, the President may, by proclamation, transfer any function to another member of his cabinet. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I see no reference in the Constitution that the President could transfer his function to Mr. Gupta. Hashtag no, Mr. President. Also, Honourable Deputy Speaker, I looked at Section 92 of the Constitution. It reads that members of the Cabinet are accountable collectively and individually to Parliament for the exercise of their powers and the performance of their functions. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I come to the hashtag. I do not see any reference in our Constitution that ministers are accountable to Mr. Gupta. Now, hashtag no, Mr. President. I'm very happy you like the hashtag no to Mr. President because he watch you from the Luthuli House. Honourable Deputy Speaker, I also looked at Section 101, subsection 2 of the Constitution. It determines that a written decision by the President must be countersigned by another cabinet member if that decision concerns a function assigned to another cabinet member. Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Constitution does not say Mr. Gupta must countersign a decision by the President. Hashtag No, Mr. President. Honourable Deputy Speaker, this crisis that this country is facing is quite serious. We have now seen that the Honourable Minister of Tourism, Minister Derek Hanekom, came out publicly supporting the Deputy Minister of Finance, and he said he's an honourable man. If he says Gupta has offered him a job, it is certainly true. So certainly we are seeing the cracks coming out. We are thankful for the moral leadership of the Deputy Minister of Finance, because the hashtag says, no, Mr. President, you must certainly understand that we are living in a constitutional democracy. People are asking what is the relevance? The relevance is very much about the budget. There will be more money if Mr. President applies the principles of constitutional democracy and stop giving the money to Mr. Gupta. This is the reality. This is the crisis. Honourable Deputy Speaker, but as we say, the more things fall apart, the more the pieces fall into place for a new DA national government in the union buildings. And I want to ask my colleagues on this side of the House and the honourable member that side to prepare for the journey towards the union buildings, because the ANC is falling apart. Honourable Deputy Speaker, we are facing a crisis in this country. People are suffering, and the honourable members on this side of the House certainly don't understand the severity of the crisis. The Honourable Minister of Social Development just indicated what happened now while we were sitting here, announcement by the Monetary Policy Committee of the South African Reserve Bank. You certainly have no clue of the depth of the problems that our people are facing. But the people in the Western Cape have a choice. And they certainly, in August, when we have the election, will make that particular choice. Because where the DA is governing, Honourable Deputy Speaker, there is a better government, there's an accountable government, there is a government, Honourable Deputy Speaker, that respects the principles and the values of the Constitution. And Honourable Member Chacham, if you would like to ask me any question, you are quite happy to do so right now.
Honourable Chacham.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. What is clause 2, point A of the Constitution? Don't read it. You're supposed to know it. You're supposed to know it.
Order.
It talks about. It talks about.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, there's no such a thing as clause 2.8 because it doesn't exist in the Constitution.
No, it does.
Order.
Minister.
Order. Order. Take your seat, please. That was the only question as far as I'm concerned. Minister, are you prepared to take another one?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, I would like to take another question from the Honourable Member.
This will be the last one then. Honourable Chacham.
The clause, Deputy Speaker, speak to non-racialism and non-sexism. And MEC only quoted point B of that section.
Where's the question?
So what is the section? What has it done? What has it done to make sure that we advance section, the point A of that section? Section 2.
Thank you, Mr. Chacham. Honourable Minister, are you prepared to answer that question?
Honourable Deputy Speaker, clearly the Honourable Leader of the caucus or the caucus chairperson certainly doesn't know what he's talking about.
Thank you. That concludes the debate on this bill. That concludes the debate on the consideration of the principle of the bill. Are there any objections to the approval of the principle of the bill? There is an objection. I therefore put the question. Those in favour will say aye. Aye. Those against no? No. I think the ayes have it. The ANC's dissension will be recorded, and also the EFF against the bill, against the principle, will be recorded. The Secretary will read the bill.
Western Cape Appropriation Bill.
The House will deal with the separate votes from now onwards. Secretary will read the second order.
Introduction and first reading, Western Cape Additional Adjustment Appropriation Bill.
I see the Minister of Finance.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, during the adjusted estimates of provincial expenditure 2015 tabled on the 20th of November, votes were provided with the opportunity to make technical adjustments to the appropriations voted in the main budget of 2015-16 financial year. Subsequent to this, and in compliance with Section 20 of the 2015 DORA, Honourable Deputy Speaker, the Department of Basic Education has reallocated the education infrastructure grant amongst provinces. Deputy Speaker, from this process, an additional amount of 50 million rand has been allocated to the Western Cape in the 2015-16 financial year, resulting in an increase in the education infrastructure grant for the Department of Education. The additional allocation has been published by the National Minister of Finance, the National Treasury, in the Government Gazette dated the 7th of March 2016. Speaker, in order to be able to spend according to these additional allocations in the 2015-16 financial year, it is thus necessary to include the amounts in an additional adjustment appropriation bill for the 2015-16 financial year. The grant is a Schedule 4 grant in terms of the Division of Revenue Act 2015 and is thus an allocation to the province to supplement the funding of programs or functions funded from the provincial budget. The purpose of these funds, as per the National Conditional Grant Schedule, is inter alia to help accelerate construction, maintenance, upgrading and rehabilitation of new and existing infrastructure education. Speaker, the Western Cape Education Department will utilize the funding in terms of the infrastructure norms and standards, which includes funding for building of additional classrooms for 8 million, school halls 38 million, and science laboratories of 4 million. Deputy Speaker, the Western Cape received additional funding because we are capable, and the National Treasury acknowledges this by displaying a vote of confidence in our capacity to spend taxpayers' money responsibly and our ability to add public value. Deputy Speaker, it therefore gives me great pleasure to table the Western Cape adjustment, the additional adjustment appropriation bill, the additional adjustment estimates of provincial expenditure for 2015-16 financial year, and the speech for consideration. I thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Secretary will read the bill the first time.
Western Cape Additional Adjustments Appropriation Bill.
The bill, together with the papers tabled, will be referred to the relevant committees for consideration and report. Before we adjourn, I would like to remind members that the Budget Committee meeting would commence after the adjournment of the sitting. That concludes the business of the day. The House is adjourned.